Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Check Drop. My name is Chuck Johnson with Summit Comedy. This is episode 17 of the COVID edition of the Check Drop. Today's the 5th of October, and I got an amazing guest this evening. I've known this guy for many years, and I'm really happy to have him on here. Today's guest, he has a very impressive resume that includes performances on The Late Show with David Letterman, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and I've seen him a couple times at the Montreal Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. And he's also the opening act for comedian Sebastian Maniscalco, so we'll talk about that. Please welcome to the Check Drop, Mr. PATT McGANN. What's up, Pat?
Hey, Chuck. What's up, man?
Oh, man. I am so happy to have you today, man.
Oh, happy to be here.
You're just like one of those comedians. I feel like a lot of people just know you, and you're just a great guy, and like you're clean comedy, and you're just all around good guy. From what I know,
dude.
I mean, you could have like demons that I don't know.
It'd be great if you invited me here to tell me I was an asshole. I just want you to, thanks for doing this. You're a complete jagoff. I just want everyone to know that.
Yeah, I just blindside everybody. Let me tell you about all the guests that I have coming on to tell you about what an asshole you were and that you beat them up in high school,
right?
And such.
No, I feel the same about you. I remember meeting you at Zanies the first time we met, and we had all these mutual friends.
Yeah,
and so it's great to have a conversation, just the two of us.
Right. You're one of those comics that came on my radar just by random because now tell me, like, you got your start later on in life as a comedian. You didn't start like, one of these 18, 22-year-old comedians that, hey, I'm going to go change the world with stand-up comedy, right?
Yeah. No, I wish I had started earlier, but I got a kind of late start. I was 31. I was in sales for like 7-8 years. And kind of always had this in the back of my mind, and met my now wife, and I was always like embarrassed to say like I wanted to do it, like, who do you think, like, because all my buddies were funny, it's just like I was never on a stage before. So then I went to an open mic though and got the bug. And
how old were you then?
I was 31.
Okay, so 31. So were you already married at that time?
No, I had just met my wife in March of 2007, and the first open mic I did was September of 2007.
So here you are, you're I guess courting or maybe engaged, and you're like
courting. That's the word I always use. I would say, okay, I'm gonna court you, babe.
Okay, awesome. So you're in the courting phase, and you're like, all right, I'm digging this girl, all right, but I'm also digging this career path that, like, maybe I can go into, and you're like, stand-up comedy. So how does that go over with the your soon-to-be bride down the road? Well,
I never thought it was a career path, to be honest with you. I just thought it was something I had to try.
Okay.
I never really realized that I could, make a living doing it. But then, I got some decent breaks and started house emceeing at Zanies, and that's when it really started becoming like, wow, I could actually maybe put more towards this and try and make this the deal.
Well, I'd have to assume that most comedians don't go into it thinking automatically like, hey, this is a career path. Like, right. I have to assume it's more of a hobby aspect, or get thrown into an open mic being drunk or something. It seems like there's so many of those first-time stories like, well, I was drunk and my friends bet me that I couldn't get up on stage and tell a joke. So
yeah, and I think that you could tell, too, like the ones that do have a strategy maybe have a more they're more likely to maybe climb or ascent. At some point you do have to probably treat it like you're trying to make it a real career and climb up the ladder.
There's comedians I know that still aren't doing that after 20 years. I think so.
No, of course, because it's a passion thing and people just love doing it. And that can kind of get into the way a little bit.
So I guess, how old are you now compared to starting when you were at 31? So how long have you been doing this?
I just turned 44.
Okay, so now was your wife pretty supportive, or is she still pretty supportive of what you do for a living? Because now I assume that now this is your full-time job. So.
Yeah, no, she is. It's kind of tough these days going through this, but it's been, a time for us to kind of reconnect and be here with the family. I knew I was traveling a lot, but I didn't really realize how much I really was.
Yeah,
and that was tough, and it was hard for us, and it's she's always been so supportive, But I didn't really realize how supportive how much she was putting up with now that I'm home, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So
I think so many people outside of the business don't really know how hard that is. The whole traveling and maintaining your spouse and or relationship and children. Once that, I mean, that's a whole another aspect of the wheel that is so difficult. I mean, I'm not a comedian, but I travel quite a bit for my business for like, trade shows and comedy festivals and such.
yeah,
I mean, I think last year I was gone like 17 weekends out of the year, and that's a lot for comedy. So
yeah.
I mean, doing all the big festivals and such. So I can't imagine being a comedian. So I think people take that for granted, just thinking, hey, these guys are hopping from town to town, or telling their jokes. But yeah, it's a tough gig, right? To make that work.
In the past year, when I started touring with Sebastian, I already had a lot of other things kind of going on in terms of corporate gigs and travel during the week. But then when I started going on these tours, I mean, they were significant, and the travel went like up exponentially, because for a while I was just really house emceeing in Zanies and making a decent living here in Chicago and just doing a ton of things here in Chicago. And in the last 2 or 3 years, it's just gone the other direction with the travel.
It's kind of a catch-22, right? Like you want the success and the financial stability of that, but then just that you leave that empty hole, I guess, at home, that a hole in your heart, I guess, per se.
Right.
So.
And again, I think that this was a little bit of a, hey, pull back a little bit. Like, this is a reminder. Like, I really was not as connected as I thought I was.
Yeah. Is your family tired of you yet, though? Because it's been a long time now. So now they're like,
with
hey.
all of that said, I'm ready to.
They're like, get out, Dad. Like, hey, we've seen a lot of you lately, Dad. Like, this.
Right. They feel the same way. I mean, I think they wouldn't mind here and there, but I have had other conversations too, where like, you're not going to start, when COVID's over, are you going to start traveling all the time? Yeah. And you're like, yeah, we'll see.
Well, let's back it up a bit. I mean, obviously, you're from Chicago. Are you originally from Chicago?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, and this is what I have to assume from you. I don't know your backstory as far as, I mean, most comedians start out, pick a town, and it's not always Chicago. It's more, let's say Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or whatever. And they, or let's throw out Roy Wood Jr. He's from Birmingham. So, like, he got on the road. Like, it's like one-nighter club. And that's a lot of comedians, they have to do that to kind of, get their sea legs as far as getting, on the road and working the jokes out and such. Did you do that, or did you just stay in Chicago and just kind of work that club and the open mics there?
I did a little bit of that. I did some road dog stuff, but I was mostly anchored with that house MC gig. I mean, one year I did like 9 months at Zanies. And that club, I mean, they're open every night of the week. The only night I had off was Sundays. So I was getting a ton of stage time here. Okay. I did work the Midwest. I did, plenty of feature runs, and, went up to Milwaukee and hosted for weekends with the Appleton. Dr. Grin's the club I kind of came up in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did do that, but not as much as a lot of other people. I wasn't going out to North Dakota, South Dakota. I was, lucky to have that house MC gig. And even in Chicago, like Chicago is a great comedy scene, and I'm from here. So I just feel like I was like Zanies, like I got to do the comedy club. I didn't even know that there was that there was a comedy scene, that there were like the open mics, the showcase rooms, and there was more to it. So I kind of a lot of people start there and then go to Zanies. I started at Zanies and then started realizing like there's so much going on here in the city.
Yeah, I felt like you just got like that perfect spot, because I mean, at Zanies, I mean, if you did that many spots, were they getting tired of seeing you, like the locals? I mean, how does that work? Like, because most clubs, they're even say here in Charlotte.
Why would you get tired of me?
You know what I mean? Like, hey, we saw this MC, 3 weeks ago when we were here. Like, I mean, like you were like, there's not a, I mean,
they didn't even do the house MC things. They did it like years ago, and then they brought it back in like 2008.
Okay.
So,
was that Cindy Nelson that was kind of working with you then?
It was Bert Haas,
Bert. Okay.
And Cindy.
Okay.
And they were, really big on like welcoming people and doing like crowd work, which I was not cool with. You know, I was just like locked into material and scared to talk to people. But I really developed that muscle there doing that, the hosting. So it was, you know, I had stuff that I would maybe repeat, but a lot of it was just riffing with the crowd and getting them juiced and welcoming them. And, you know, it was because I think I would go crazy myself if I was doing the same thing every night.
Yeah. Well, I've never met Bert. I've known Cindy for years. I've seen her.
Really?
Yeah, I've never met him. And,
he wasn't there that night that we were hanging, huh?
He might have been. I just didn't ask to meet him.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just my little fish in my little pond here, so I really don't like, you know. I mean, I meet a lot of people on the road and such, and every now and then somebody will pull me in. It's like, do you know so and so? And like, no.
Are you still talking to Cindy? Are you still in touch with her?
I do. Yeah. She's in Vegas. You know, booking. I think. Well, she's the head manager now at what's his face's
Brad Garrett's
club. Yes. Yeah. I was actually going to go out there in March. I had she had actually arranged that, you know, I was going to go out there and see some shows and hang out with her, and obviously that was literally it was the week after all this shit hit, because I was doing South by Southwest. Okay. And I was going out there for a couple of days doing the Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I was like, well, since I'm out, I'll just swing up to Vegas and do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, hang out in Vegas for the weekend. And that didn't happen, obviously. So
everyone's got that story, right? Like I was supposed to be
anywhere. XYZ. Yeah.
I had the dates in my calendar. Like I didn't erase them. So I'd still like look at my phone and be like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Right.
My birthday was March 14th. So that was literally you know, March 12th, 13th was kind of when all that shit hit the fan, and like all the cancellations just started bombarding. The last live event for Live Nation was on the 12th. I don't know if you remember that. I don't know if Sebastian is affiliated with Live Nation, but I remember they all shut down the night. The Thursday of the 12th was the last night, because I actually went to a concert that night and they were just bitching. The band was just like, this sucks. Like,
we were in
our last show.
We were in Norfolk, Virginia. What concert were you at?
A band called Overkill. I'm into the heavy metal, like old school stuff. So
there you go.
But I listen to everything from Mumford and Sons down the line. But I'm just a big musician guy. It's funny. I'm huge into music. I never was big into comedy, but I fell into the comedy world just by chance. So
I think we were seeing like Metallica at Soldier Field when you came through, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was up there. I don't know when that was, like 5-6 years ago, and it was a Father's Day weekend. So yeah, I remember. Yeah, that's exactly right. I brought a couple of buddies out there to come see you. Yeah. So
you're like, fuck off, kids. I'm going
to rock. Yeah. So I remember your first time hearing your name was through Cindy. We were at one of those comedy festivals. I think it was
World Series Comedy, maybe.
I don't think it was that one. I think there was one that Jeff Johnson was doing in Iowa. It was called like the Comedy 10K.
I never did that. Bozeman was.
Yeah, well, Bozeman was there that time, and I remember like me and him sitting at the 3-card poker table, and he just kept borrowing money. Like, and he knew he was taking advantage of me, Kevin Bozeman. So Kevin Bozeman was taking advantage of me because he knows I can't hold my alcohol very well. He's like, hey, give me another 100. Like, man, I need to keep track of this. And like, I remember at the time, like he had owed me money for like NACA submissions for the colleges and such. And he's like, yeah, just put it on my NACA tab. I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like running, like I need some notes. I need scratch paper. This guy.
NACA tab. That's great.
You never did those, did you?
No, I never did. I always wanted to try and get into a NACA showcase, but I was talking a lot about, you know, at that time I was getting married and you know, having kids, and
it's probably not the best thing for
you.
Like
I always felt like I was clean for the colleges, but I never did the college scene.
Yeah. So that's the first time I heard your name was she mentioned your name to me and said, you should check this guy out. And then within like whenever that was, like you did Letterman right after that. So I mean, this might have been. Yeah. So what was that? 8 years ago? When did you do Letterman the first time?
2014 was the first time.
All right. So that's 6 years ago, right? Yeah. Doing the math.
So, it was right towards the end.
Okay. Yeah. But you did it twice, correct?
Yeah, I did it in 2014, and then I did it again in 2015.
Okay, yeah. So, and I just remember like, holy shit! Like, here's a guy, and I always kind of felt like I knew the comedians on the scene. Like I said, the ones that are working the road more and such. And And I was like, who's this PATT McGANN guy? Like, he's
Right.
on Letterman. And then he got it again. I was like, holy shit. And you were funny. And that was the first time I had actually seen you. I was like, so I remember her saying like, it's like, if you got any corporate events, this guy's the guy. So he's doing all these corporate events and stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. So.
I know. And then you started hooking me up.
Yeah, I did. I have a good story about you, and this might be the norm for you, but I had never had this happen in all my years of booking stand-up comedy. I had you booked for a gig, and you said, "Oh, can I get out of it? I've got a better gig." And usually, if it works out okay, with everybody involved, I allow that to happen. I hate it when comics book, say, a one-nighter and then they cancel like a week out, and it just it's the ethics thing. But you came to me about this thing, and you're like, hey man, and it was plenty far in advance, and you're like, my client wants to buy your client out, and I go, wait, what? And I had never heard of that before.
Neither had I. That's a one-timer.
And I don't even remember how much it was, but it was a lot of money, and they just wrote a check and sent it, and I was like,
because I told them, I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah,
and
they're like, they
wanted you, but I'm already committed, and they said
they wanted you so bad that
they bought. Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah,
that's never happened before. But thank you. That's
okay. All right. See, well, I was like, does this happen often with this guy? Here's this guy that just works the house MC.
I felt really cool. I was like, dude, and they already sent the check. Like, here's the pro number. Like, because I didn't believe it. I was like.
And I was like, man, funny. I don't know. Like, it was definitely a first for me. And I was like, all right. I mean, again, this might happen. There might be other agencies listening and going, that happens all the time, Chuck. And like, well, it had never happened to me. And I was like, all right, cool. And it all worked out. So, and the client was happy. And, I put in Kevin Bozeman.
I always wondered. You must have came out on top of that.
Yeah,
I always wonder where did.
I split it with the company. So
I should have negotiated that with you.
Yeah, that's okay. But I mean, I was up until recently, I was still pitching you all the time. But then you were like, I'm not available because you're on the road with Sebastian. So.
No, I appreciate you pitching me, and those were great gigs.
Yeah, man. Well, you're funny, so and you're reliable. That's a little bit tough in this business sometimes. Funny and reliable. Wait, what? two
That's hilarious to me. That's just hilarious to me. I would love to hear stories about comics.
Well, ask. I've got plenty. I'll tell.
Like, what's the worst? What's the worst feedback you ever got from somebody you booked for like a clean corporate gig? Or
there's been so many shitty ones. I mean, I do a lot of festivals and stuff where they ask me. I do panels and such, and I say this every time I'm on a panel about working clean. I mean, I love dirty comedy. I mean, Anthony Jeselnik's one of my favorites.
Sure, yeah.
But there's a time and a place, obviously, for every event, right? So, and I always say to comedians, like, the spokes on the comedy wheel. There's all the spokes, and there's usually I say the 5 C's. It's like the colleges, the corporates, the clubs, the churches, and the cruises, right? So those are the 5 C's. If you can tailor your material to work on all those, man, you can make a really good future for yourself in this. But most comedians just focus on the clubs, and they say what they want to say. They drop the F-bombs or whatever they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But again, you don't open up those lanes for that. So I say that. And I also say the concept of like, you know what? In the 22 years I've owned Summit Comedy, I've never had one person call me the next morning and go, you know what? That comedian was just too clean.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's never going to happen. Like, it's never going to happen. But you know how many times the opposite of that, those phone calls? Oh, yeah. Hundreds.
And sometimes it's like you can do something that everyone is cool with, but then that one group, it's just incredible. I'm trying to think of an example, but what some people find offensive, and you're like, what do you?
Right.
But the line, I do think the line has gone out. Like, they're more acceptable. Like, I do less gigs where they're like, you can't say this or this or, because people, at this point, most people that work for us have grew up with cable TV and the stuff that we're watching on a regular basis. And,
I agree with that. But I mean, and any comedian out there listening, they should just always ask the client ahead of time.
Yeah.
You know your material, you know what you're going to do, and you know the trigger points, I guess, per se, that just to ask the client ahead of time whether it's a college or any of the
Right.
spokes on the wheel. Obviously, the clubs they don't give a shit, but yeah, it just kind of makes sense that way. So I don't know.
It's
So
funny.
in this COVID comedy world, are you 100% just taking a back seat, taking a little sabbatical, or have you adapted to the Zoom comedy? Have you done any of that?
I'm doing some Zoom stuff, virtual
Okay.
shows, some corporate. I've hosted a couple of things like award shows. So staying pretty busy.
Yeah.
Can't complain there. I'm not really going into any clubs. I did do a fundraiser this weekend. It was a quick indoor, like it was set up nicely, like all within guidelines, and
Yeah.
did a 10-minute set that was streamed out to like a bigger crowd, but they did have a small live audience. I did a couple outdoor shows that this girl Maggie Hughes DePaulo puts together here out in Chicago. They're outdoor like restaurants,
They're like, there's that MC from Zanies
and
again.
yeah, and she's let me pop in on those, which is great. I just went into Zanies the other night when I had that gig. I stopped in there just to feel the vibe, see how they were doing it,
Yeah.
and it was good. It felt great to be in there. I mean, it's so crazy,
Like,
to
how far are
think.
they spaced out?
Well, the room, right?
Yeah,
It's low ceiling. It's pretty tight in
yeah,
there.
like a shotgun
So they
room.
have like 4 on a side and then like 3 rows. They don't have
Okay.
tables.
Are they at 50% capacity or?
I believe they are, yeah, or
Okay.
at 50 max people maybe.
Okay.
But they're maxing out, and like I said, it was a good vibe in there. They take your temp when you get there. Masks, they're following the protocols, but it's just unbelievable to think that I haven't been there in
Right.
6 months, 7 months. Like that's the part that just where all of us are dealing with, trying to act like we're pushing through it, but it's really tough to not be doing spots right now. Not
Right. I mean, just think of all the things that you have, that your normal life. I mean, like I said, like, the flights and the whatever. I was like, I mean, I haven't gone 7 months without being on a plane since I was 23 years old, I think. So
I know.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. I don't know.
I just hope these clubs survive because a lot of them are independently owned, and there's we just need more relief, it seems, from the government on these live venues. I mean, we're
Right.
seeing these venues just fall apart or disappear, and it sucks.
Yeah, I don't know if they even have a magnifying glass on this part of the industry, though. I don't think they, give a shit.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're definitely not extending a hand.
Well, I don't. I mean, I would never guess who has what lobbying power, but would you have to have a ton of muscle in DC if you're, pushing live entertainment? I mean, it's pretty ho hum stuff. Not very,
Yeah,
everybody. So maybe they don't have enough people down there chirping for it, but it's certainly one of the more completely decimated industries.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
get this perspective wise that it's not essential, and it's, but it's
Yeah,
the
we're a
reality is,
luxury.
the reality is it sucks and people are hurting. And I say this saying that everyone should get more help than they're getting right now.
Yeah. Did you ever think? I mean, that you got to this level in your career, and then you get you get fired by the world. Like,
Yeah.
I used to, I've only had one job after college, and I worked for the Comedy Zone, and I got laid off after Carrot Top left because
Right.
they managed him at the time, and that was
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
like their golden goose, and
Yeah.
then the money dried up, and they're like, hey man, we gotta let you go, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna start my own company because I didn't want to ever be fired again. It's like, that was bullshit. And then I was like, oh my gosh, 22 years later, I was like, man, the world just fired me. So, temporarily, obviously, but
Temporarily.
yeah,
Exactly.
but
But
it's a huge inconvenient, obviously. So
yeah, but it's the trade-off is you've gotten to do what you're passionate about and what you want to do, and
right.
it's like you keep hearing this bounce forward. Like that's like the attitude you got to convince yourself to have, but craziness.
Yeah. What's your happy place outside of the stand-up comedy world, besides your family?
I mean, that's really about it. I do enjoy like historical stuff, and I'm big into sports, but that's another thing that's kind of just feels a lot different now. I'm a big White Sox fan, and I'm a big Chicago fan.
All your loves are gone.
Yeah, right?
Hey, sports? Nah, you got it. Comedy stages? Nah, tough shit. So
I just like to get on Twitter and just feed my rage and just get pissed off and
and just go
depressed.
Go cuddle with your kids.
Wine. I drink a lot of wine.
Yeah.
Wine and gummies. That's my hobby.
I've been working on it. I've been joking, but it's not really a joke, that I've been working on the COVID-19 pounds. So.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. I have been running a lot. Actually, I cannot even believe that I'm saying this, that I've been running.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I have like this stress that I'm not used to having. Because even if you are like, talked earlier about like having a strategy, building your career, building anything, like even if you were adding right to your company, you would always have your booking. You would always have like, and that's how you feel as a comic, like as you're building, like, all right, I love stand up and I'll always have stand up, but I want to try and do other things. But then I have like your bread and butter.
Yeah.
That's the, Have you booked any virtual stuff? You getting like inquiries for that?
Well, yeah, I for 3 months I didn't do shit. I was like, you know what? I'm going to my happy place, which is the golf course, and I would just go golfing all the time. And
good for you.
Got down to a single index handicap, and
I
mean it's like a 9.8, but still it's single digit. So
how many? What's the most you play in a day?
Well, 2 weeks ago I was at a trip in Pinehurst, and we were playing 36 holes a day.
You're an animal.
So
you've always been a big golfer?
No. I mean, well, over the last, when I moved into this neighborhood that I'm in now, so about 15 years. So, but I was shitty up until about probably 5 or 6 years ago. And all my friends that may be watching now, or listening, they still say, no, you're still shitty. but I'm decent.
Yeah.
So but it's a good group of guys, and that's just it. Like that's half of it, right? You have a good group of guys. We've got, I mean, we did a match play tournament this past weekend. I think we had like 30, 40 guys doing that. So it's just, again, we're all in this little world together and just dealing with this COVID the best way. And everybody's just gravitating to beer and golf.
I played 9 holes this year. I broke my buddy's window.
Car window?
The 9th hole.
Or the
9th hole is like the parking lot's like back and to the right. I whacked it. He made a joke too, like, dude, you just like the caddy just made a symbol. You broke a car window. Yeah. Not only did I break a car window, he made the joke. I broke his car window.
That's like a hole in one.
It was unbelievable.
I mean, that's like a hole in one. The odds of that. I mean, like,
I just cannot get good at that game.
I think you should just say you just got a hole in one there. So.
So yeah, I had to bring his car in. It was a disaster.
Yeah, so I took some time off, and then eventually I realized that the shit wasn't going away, and then I did dive back into that, and mostly the college world, because they're doing a lot of the virtual stuff.
Oh, good.
Because they have to. I mean, they have to engage these students somehow, right? So
sure.
And I popped in on a few. Like I popped in on BOZEMAN doing one the other day, and just kind of wanted to see, what
the vibe is.
Yeah. So, but I also don't want to be that guy in the back of the room, because they can see me now, right? Sometimes at a club you can, sneak in and look at your client or whatever in the back, and they don't know you're there. But in a Zoom call, and there's like maybe 15 people on this Zoom, and you can just see you right there, like Chuck Johnson. So he's like, all right, cool. So I try not to jump on too many of these guys to intimidate them. So
yeah, right.
So how long did it take you in the break, I guess, before you did your first Zoom?
Probably a month.
Oh, well, you were quick to it then.
Maybe a month or two.
Yeah.
This group that actually I just did the thing for this past weekend, they reached out. It was just a fundraiser, so it wasn't like a advertised show, or it was just like, let's work together because I had worked with them in the past for pediatric epilepsy. And then I started doing like real like corporate ones probably May, June. Probably started popping in.
Okay.
So they've been nice, just to have something, have some money coming in, gotta earn, and then also just feeling something, some kind of
the creative outlet, right?
Self-worth, and definitely.
Yeah. Well,
so
now
I've,
that I know
I've embraced them.
Now that I know you're doing them, I'll pitch you for some of those as well. Let's see. It's all coming back around.
That's why I'm here, Chuck.
Full circle.
That's why I'm here. I heard you got some work. Let's go.
Awesome.
I want to.
So
this is my background. Do you approve of my background?
What are those estates you've worked in or checked off? Or, I see some arts and crafts back there.
I monitor the hot
Is that a Nintendo back there?
No, it's just a.
Okay. It looks like a Nintendo box.
It's my kid's briefcase. He sells insurance now.
Nice. What did you sell before you started doing comedy?
Packaging, like custom printed bags and boxes.
Okay.
I always use my
bubble wrap.
I always use my Vegas business as a example. Like when you go to Vegas, I had the like Caesar's Palace.
Okay.
When you buy something there and they give you the bag that says Caesar's,
right?
It's those bags.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got some of those Summit comedy bags. Like I think I've got some.
Oh yeah.
The string bags. So
now they're big into the reusable, the non-woven polypropylene.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to go check the tag and see if that's what I've got.
Let's talk bags.
See if you approve. I
wonder if the industry's changed a lot, probably.
Yeah, probably. But not really, I bet. I bet you can slip right back into it. So, but yeah, there's no conventions now, so you can't even
have to.
You can't, those are the big buyers, those big conventions. But yeah, none of that going on. Do they sell virtual bags?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be the future.
I did this past weekend. I did a NACA conference virtually.
You did?
Yeah, that was the first time they've tried that. So it was very interesting. The pros were the fact that I could play golf Saturday morning and not be in some shithole town in like Iowa or something attending a conference, and I could sleep in my own bed.
There you go.
And the cons were, it was weird that like from like 3 to 4 every day you sat in a Zoom meeting room that you created and waited patiently until somebody showed up in your booth. It's a trade show where they're hopping from booth to booth and shaking hands.
Sure.
So it was that. It was very odd and unique. The people that did join.
Did they have showcase?
I had 3 showcases over the weekend: Orlando Baxter, Jasmine Ellis, and Francisco Ramos.
Oh, nice.
So they each got some work. So I don't know. We'll see.
I did Gotham Live with Orlando Baxter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's a good guy.
Really good guy. Tell him I said hey.
I will. So we did that, but that is that new world, right? So and they're doing it again this upcoming weekend. So I don't know. It's weird. I'm not a fan, but we're all adapting.
Yeah.
They're trying to make money as well. So
and if you're getting drumming up work, right? I mean, it's just like
it's better than a sharp stick in the eye, right? So
yeah.
So
bounce forward.
Yeah, bounce forward. Yeah. So let's talk about you just released a comedy special during all this mess.
I did, yeah. So
when did that come? So the official title is what I see here: Sebastian Maniscalco presents PATT McGANN. When's Mom Gonna Be Home? Is that the correct full length?
That's a long one.
Yeah. Did you? Was that his idea to have his name in the presents, or is that?
Well, I think it was everyone's idea because it was like, who the hell's gonna know who I am? So let's lead with Sebastian.
Yeah.
Well, he was, produced it, and he was put his name on it, but getting behind it, this thing does no way that I get a special without him. He wanted to.
That's not true.
He wanted to do this. I mean, maybe eventually, but I don't think right now. It wasn't like they were, So anyway, I'm grateful that he did it, and I think putting his name on it was, smart thing to do. Try and get it in front of his fans, and then from there, we shot that thing last September in Chicago at the Vic.
Okay.
So we were, close to getting it, and then when things kind of got nuts. So it was pushed out. The title doesn't really hold up, that When's Mom Gonna Be Home? Because by the time it came out, it was like, when's Mom not gonna be home? When's Dad not gonna be home?
Yeah.
When's Dad gonna get a job?
Is the material, I haven't seen the special yet, is the material in there all relevant, regardless? Is it timeless? Or is it like, if you watch it now, it's like, that bit doesn't really...
All you are saying is how much time you have on your hands. You golf every fucking day. You book me to be a guest. You're like, I didn't watch your special.
Hey, an hour. I'd rather see you live and talk to you and maybe go watch your special later.
That shit. I got to get my index down at the club.
All right. When was the last time you watched a stand-up special? Yeah. Tell me when. All right.
Probably.
We'll flip it back on you. What was the last comedy special that you watched on Netflix?
What were the last few dropped on Netflix? Mine's not on Netflix. Mine's on like Amazon and Apple TV. And no, it's my life. It's, you know, being married, having kids, the travel, the, you know, growing up Catholic. Those are like the notes. Going out with couples, married couples, you know, it's my material is just really my life, and just that.
Is it clean, your special?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, maybe a couple F-bombs, but no, it's clean.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize, I haven't watched it. I promise I will find.
No, I was just trying to
47 minutes out of my time.
Bust
I don't
your
know how long
balls.
it is, but
47 is probably enough for you. You tap out at 47. I don't know how long it is, but I'm good for 47.
Well, you know, as an agent, I can get the gist of somebody usually probably in 3 to 5. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure.
Yeah. Unless I'm really doing a magnifying glass on like somebody I want to fully represent, say in the college market or whatever. So,
it's funny though, right? Like that's how comedy is consumed now. Like people aren't watching like
the snippets,
a block of an hour. Yeah, they'll watch it's the clips that you want to go, you know, get shared. And
yeah, well, that's how it all works. Like you watch, say the YouTube clips from like the Tonight Show and such. They don't put the whole show up there. They put them in little segments, you know. So the attention span of everybody's getting smaller and smaller. So
you're not kidding, man. Do you see that Social Dilemma?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you had time for that?
You know what? I didn't watch all of it, so there. I fell asleep.
47 minutes.
I watched 3 to 5. I could figure it out.
I watched 3 to 5 minutes, and then I was like back on my phone, just scrolling. That's scary shit.
I feel like this is turning into a roast now. So.
No, it's crazy, isn't it?
Oh, that's so funny. So how did you get hooked up with Sebastian? Were you longtime friends with that fella?
You know, I met Sebastian during the House MC days. So when I was hosting there, and he was, you know, at the point in his career where he was like selling out comedy clubs. So he had like, you know, he was a big draw, and there was buzz, and I had never seen him perform live before, you know. So we met at Zanies, and he knew I was from Chicago. He's from here, and
he's from there originally. I didn't.
Yeah,
know.
Yeah. He started in LA though. He moved out to LA to start right after college, and anyway, we just, you know, we didn't become like fast friends. And you know, Sebastian's a very focused dude, and you know, he kind of has his space, and I gave him that space, and I think that he respected that, and he was. You know, I don't even think he saw my stuff that first weekend because Zanies there is so packed. Then they opened for him for a Showtime special. They shot here in Chicago, and I think he dug my stuff, and we stayed in touch. Then I wasn't really able to hit the road with him because I had stuff going on here at home, and I was doing all the House MC stuff. And but we stayed in touch. I did a couple corporate gigs with him.
Yeah, and
then then he asked me to go back on the road with him, and he kind of was just like, hey, do you want to be my opener? It's like, yes, I'd love it. And we were going, you know, originally it's still in some markets we'll do like the big theater, you know, and some of these markets are doing arenas.
Right.
Like we got to do Madison Square Garden, the Boston Garden. It was just a year ago yesterday. I got a text actually from the tour manager, and she sent a picture of Sebastian with the Boston Garden banner. that we just did a year ago, which, I mean, to be honest with you, it seems like longer ago than that.
Right. So
Crazy.
let's talk about that shift though, from the open doing the MC gig at Zanies, and then you're like doing the Boston Garden. I mean, that's just got to blow your mind, right? The amount of people that you're now performing to all at once. So how's that
It's just
transition?
insane. Like, I actually am appreciating it more now because you have all the time you have, and to look back on what's been, no longer there.
Yeah.
I mean, just insane. I was just blown away doing like the 1,500 seat theaters that we were doing really when we first started the touring, and then as it went and went, it's like that. Go to New York City, we're doing Radio City, and then the next year we're doing the Garden.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it was just kind of I was just so lucky to be along on that ride with him. That just electric audiences. Just like these people were juiced from like I'm the opener. They're already like fired up. They're so excited to see him, and
Yeah. I remember
really cool.
I remember following you on Instagram and seeing some of those pictures. I think you flew your family out, or at least your wife, for that New York weekend. Set those records, right?
Yeah, he had 4 sold out shows, and
yeah,
I mean they're like flipping the room. They're like turning the Garden.
Yeah, how does that
7 o'clock
how
and
does
10
that
o'clock?
even work? I mean,
just nuts, man.
I mean, so yeah, I read that it was the Billboard record for the most sold tickets at the Garden in a weekend, and I think it was like $9 million gross. I mean, that's bananas. Like
Bananas, and
I mean,
we're backstage, and
you go from one nighters like in Joliet, whatever, to the Garden.
No, I know. I mean, it's just like we was looking at pictures last night when they sent the thing about last year, and in all these markets too, it's like these people come out to see him. You're seeing Aziz Ansari, Coach K, Phil Mickelson, Lorraine Bracco. Just
hanging out in the green room just afterwards.
I mean, doing a set one night, and De Niro was like in the 5th row. Tony Danza. It's just crazy. It's just
how do you keep that shit together though? Like again, you're used to working, say, clubs, and I have to assume that you became comfortable working in the clubs and such, but it's a whole different animal with the sound, like in a big place like that. It's just
you do. I mean, honestly, like you're overwhelmed at first, and then you do get used to it. I mean, the first time we did the arena, we were in Toronto, and I was super nervous, and it was in the round. I've never done anything in the round. So I was kind of nervous about that. I'm not physical. He's like an acrobat. He can really fill the space, but these monitors they have are a big help. And you just kind of
Did you find yourself having to readapt to your style of performing? And like you mentioned, the round. So I didn't know you were doing that. So like having to are you still with Levity management?
Yes. Yeah.
So was Levity like, I could see Judy going, hey, you got to move around. You got other people behind you and shit. So,
Yeah, no, we talked about it. They show me where the cameras were, and, you kind of are almost like working the cameras because a lot of people are looking at the monitors. They're not going to see your facial expression if they're looking at you from their seat,
right.
So.
But that's different, right? I mean, that's a whole new concept.
So different.
Yeah.
And I learned from going up into the rafters and watching him too. I would go up into the faraway seats at the arena and watch Sebastian and see how he was connecting. And, you're almost skeptical of comedy in an arena because it's such a big place, but he can really pull it off, and I think being physical is a big part of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't picture you as a big physical comedian. Obviously he is.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. So I think in the round for him, probably works to his advantage, just literally hopping around like that. So
it comes like up from the stage too. It's like,
nice.
I mean, it's a big production.
Rock star status.
Yeah, it's something else.
So I'm sure he misses all this shit too.
Oh,
Do you talk to him and is he slitting his wrists, or like do you guys just sit around in a room like you said, like last year this time? Damn it!
no, I'm sure it's really tough. I mean, yeah, we've talked, and he helped a lot with the promoting the special. So at the end of July, when we were pushing it out, he was. I was seeing him, on these things every other day, and
I remember seeing
he's
you
doing
on
well.
some
I
live
think
TV too that you were promoting. So
yeah, I think he's capitalizing on the family time, and he's got other projects, so he's focusing on other projects, and
yeah. But I just like it sucks. I mean, for you and like guys like him, and like that star. Yeah, you were riding that wave, right? I mean, it's such a amazing wave. I'm assuming and just just crash down. You're like, damn it. I mean, I hope that it'll rebound for you guys to just pick up where you left off. But I also have thought of this, and you can weigh in on this. Do you feel that it's going to be a little bit harder for all the comedians? Like, and I've used Sebastian as an example because he won't be doing those large arenas because there's going to be the COVID barriers that 50% or whatever. Do you think that he's going to go into smaller places like clubs and
I mean, that would probably make sense, right? I mean, I think it's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's probably inevitable. You're already seeing it with
because that's what's open, right? Because the clubs are opening, so I can see Sebastian going in there, and I think it's just going to, unfortunately, I mean, not to poke fingers, but it's just a pecking order, right? So I mean, if you're further down the list, I mean, there are going to be comedians that aren't going to be comedians anymore just because they can't wiggle their way into that spot because there's no place for them to perform. So
yeah, it's going to be it's just devastating, especially because comedy was in such a boom, right? And maybe one of the longer extended booms. And comedy, I think, I don't know, we live in such a polarized society now that there's no really reason you would think that comedy would ever not be booming or relevant or needed and necessary. So it's just so unfortunate that it's happening now at this time because
like I said, it just blindsided everyone, right? I mean, who would have thought? Nowhere in your career you thought of one day, this could all be toppled by this, and you're not allowed to do this anymore. And nope, that never crossed anybody's mind. I mean, that I had never had that conversation with. So.
I mean, come on, how many people? I don't remember even hearing it from people like, well, you're set. People are always going to need to laugh.
Right, of course.
But when you can't do shows, you just you never think of it.
Yeah, I mean, in my whole life, my whole business career, everybody's been just like, all my friends like, man, you have the best job in the world. Like this is you're the man. Even in February, it's like, man, this is the best. And once April, they're like, how are you doing?
I know.
I'm golfing a lot, So, but it's unique. I mean, I've said this a couple of times that the only thing I always kind of feel like I was ahead of the curve with most things, like with competitors and trying to stay ahead of everything and the trends in the market and stuff and keeping up with social media, etc. And the only thing I could think of, I remember just literally thinking, what could cripple my business? And the only thing I got to think of, I was trying to think outside the box, was holograms. I was like, man, if these holograms take off and my job's over, I'm gonna start booking holograms of dead comedians or something.
You would always think tech related, right?
Yeah. Well, it's always, like I said, trying to think outside that box like that, in the long term. Yeah, pandemic didn't cross my mind, so I'm like, damn it.
No, it didn't. I did have a buddy though that works. He's like a brilliant dude. This guy I went to high school with, and he's in microbiology, and he would often say it's amazing that it hasn't happened. And I would be like, what are you talking about? He's like, they had the Spanish flu in 1918. He's like, that is not uncommon. He's like, it's crazy that it's inevitable. It will happen again. And I remember bringing it out of him sometimes,
when did he say that? How many years ago was that?
I mean, he has said it throughout the last, since he's been out of college.
Yeah. Okay.
10 years, 12 years.
And now he wins. Hey, you won.
I told you.
You were right. Yeah. I don't
Crazy.
know.
I feel, yeah, it's just too bad it got as bad as it did.
Yeah, I think. I guess we got to just get a vaccine. I guess that's the missing ingredient, right? I guess. I mean, we can, the politics aside, we don't even need to go into any of that. I think it's literally just as simple as that. Let's
Yeah,
get
it's science.
Let's get science behind this, get a vaccine, and let's get the hell out of this scenario so we can go tell dick. You can tell dick jokes, and I can sell dick jokes again.
Exactly, man.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, your career has been so good as of late. Before all this hit, like, what's next for you? Like, what do you feel like is the next zenith in your career? Is it? I mean, you got a special. I mean, what else? Like, do you want a special that doesn't have Sebastian's name in front of it? Like, what's the next thing that you want in your career?
I mean, yeah, I would certainly love to do another special, and I don't know. It's just like, I feel like I'm at everyone's at a little crossroads right now.
Yeah.
Trying to figure which way to pivot towards, and but I want to continue to do stand up, and I'd like to get involved in some other projects, maybe write something, and I've been trying to work on that a little bit during all this.
Okay. Just a new creative outlet.
Yeah, I just realized that you just have to, like, put it out there. I'm not the best at posting things constantly, but trying to grow my social media presence, because that's, like, that's where everybody is.
Yeah, that's inevitable too. I mean, I guess if you had that crystal ball, like, to look back and, like, when it first came out, every comedian would have said, "Oh, I would have probably jumped on that a little bit more." It's kind of like the whole Dane Cook back in the MySpace days, right? He just jumped on something quick, and I mean, that's definitely propelled his career. I mean, just by putting his finger on every single person that reached out to him, type scenario. So I don't know. So same scenario, a crystal ball. Like, if you had a crystal ball to look forward into your career 10 years, would you do it?
If I had the opportunity to?
Yeah, if you had a crystal ball and you could look into your future, where you're at in your comedy career in 10 years, would you do it or would you not?
I would not.
Nah.
I don't think I would.
Yeah, just kind of wait and see how this all plays out.
Yeah, because I think it's, I don't know. There's just so much involved. I would have way too many questions if I saw where I was 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't be able to accomplish anything.
Do you ever see yourself retiring from stand-up? I mean, do comedians retire from stand-up, or do they just
I don't think so.
Slowly disappear, or when COVID happens?
I've had this argument with my wife.
Oh, really? Do tell. I want to hear this story now. So,
no,
right.
I mean,
how does this argument start?
Well, if you talk about, like, the future and your plan, and
okay.
I think maybe she said we have to plan for retirement. I was like, I'll probably never retire.
Okay.
Like, why would I ever retire? I mean, if I could do a show, even if you did 3 shows a year, you're not retired, you know? I mean, at that point, I mean, who knows what it's going to be like? I mean, it's just ridiculous to say, but I think that, I don't think comics retire.
Yeah. I don't think I'll retire either. My wife and I have had this conversation, one time, I think it was around 5 or 6 years ago. I don't care what job you're in, you get in ruts, right? I mean, whether, you need a change or whatever, you need a lifestyle change or whatever, you just kind of mix it up. And I remember telling my wife just that, going, I don't know about this. And she's like, what? You book a comedian, make all these dollars, like, for a corporate gig or whatever. She's a teacher, so she doesn't get paid shit. So she's like, no, you're not going anywhere. You're staying right there. And then I was like, yeah, you're right. So, but the same scenario, like you said, like, I can see, even if I just sold 1 comedian a month or whatever, like, and still got to
right. I mean, that's the thing. You get a call.
Golf, whatever.
Somebody calls you and says, Chuck, can you help me? I need to, you're a guy that puts people together. You know who to put in for certain. So why would you're gonna call and be like, why would I not do this?
Unless it's not worth my time. That's what it boils down to. Like, hey, well, if you can go make $1,000 making a phone call or whatever. Yeah,
it's just who you are. Like,
Right.
just like with this, like I talk about my life. I'm never going to stop thinking about stuff that I want to talk about and make jokes about.
Right. I
So
mean, because our
one
job,
day just be like, I'm done with that.
because our job is pretty good, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, on both sides of the fence, I think, you know.
for
Again,
sure.
there's pros and cons to both. I mean, you have to travel on the road, and you know that sucks. I assume, working 1 to 2 hours a night, and that's it. I mean, how do you
Yeah.
kill your time on the road? I mean, what do you do when you're out there?
It depends where we're at. A lot of times, like with the Sebastian stuff, a lot of times if we're anchored in a town, then I'll try and find something to do. Like, it might be something touristy or something. If I could go see a game, I will. It's rare though, because most of the games are at night. But I'll go to a museum, or I'll go to the restaurant in town. Like if they have something from diners, drives, and dives, or something iconic.
Okay.
Smaller towns. If it's a smaller town, we're probably not there for 2 nights, so we're traveling. But that kind of goes for anywhere I go. If I'm going to a place I've never been, I'm probably not going to sit in a hotel. I'm going to go see something that I can only see
Do
or
you go
do
out by
there.
yourself, or do you grab like some production people or Sebastian or whoever you're working with? Or do you go out
We
together?
got a good squad, so there's usually somebody that you could go with, but a lot of times I go solo.
Okay.
And then I do that a lot when I'm traveling by myself too,
Nice. What's one thing that you don't leave home without when you're traveling on the road?
Something I don't leave home without.
Like, oh, I gotta pack this, like every time. Do you have that item in?
I'll bring workout clothes, and then I usually don't work out, but I always bring them.
You're like, how's that working out? Oh, okay.
I always gotta bring like an extra pair of shoes I never use. Although I have convinced myself, I know I've gotten better at packing,
Okay.
but now I probably am rusty.
Yeah.
I'm still living on my travel kit though. How's that for optimism?
Well,
I still have
there's that.
the shave kit.
Yeah, you're gonna be really rusty that first theater you go to. You're like, oh shit.
Oh, I'm gonna lose a lot of phone chargers when you start traveling again.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're rusty, you always leave the charger at the hotel. That's always a.
Well, any nuggets of wisdom for, say, newcomer comedians that are out there listening?
Well, you're not gonna make it. It's over. Stand-up's dead. Quit now.
Keep going. Keep going.
Go on TikTok.
That's where it's at these days, I guess.
Yeah, they already know. Go on TikTok. No, I mean, I always just say, get on stage.
Yeah, but you can't get on stage now. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, say you're 31 again, and you're like, you got that itch to do stand-up, and like, what do you do? I mean,
yeah, think about the comics that were maybe a year in and just,
they just pull that plug, and you're like, this is over.
I don't know. That was the only advice I would ever, used to be giving. But writing stuff, when you think of it or when it happens, being personal, talk about your life. I mean, you can talk about whatever you want, but I just think that helps make you unique.
Just talk about Pat's
jot
life.
it down. Jot it down in your phone. Yeah, send me all your premises.
Maybe I'll start doing comedy, and I'm just gonna start talking about Pat McGann's life.
Just send me premises, and I'll hash through them and get back to you.
That's awesome. Hey, we're about to wrap up here soon. I like to end it. We've talked about so many amazing gigs that you've done. I always, I've booked so many shit gigs for so many people that I've probably, have like, their stories are like a Chuck Johnson Summit Comedy, like the worst gig they've ever done. But what is what? I know it's happened. No, I know I have a good reputation, but sometimes you put somebody in a situation that it's out of your control as an agent.
I hear you.
Yeah, it's inevitable that some of the ones that are just not that good, and comedians out there listening right now going, yeah, I know. I mean, you can be very optimistic and do everything right and with a client, but if they don't do the show right. So what is I assume you have a go-to gig that's like, oh, that was the worst gig I've ever done in my, comedy existence.
I'm not great with this. I think I just bury them. And I just...
They didn't happen. They didn't happen.
I really think I just go into some denial. I do remember doing one in Boston for a group, and they were paying me fairly well,
Yeah.
And there's that too, right? If you are being paid well, you want to do well, you know? And these people just weren't even paying attention. Just not even.
They got their backs turned to you and
just eating during food. They brought me up when they weren't supposed to bring me up during dinner. Terrible intro. Maybe it was I had to introduce myself. You know,
coming to the stage.
No one introduce you. Yeah, you're just like, hey guys.
You read your own bio and you're like, coming to the stage, PATT McGANN.
Turn around.
Hey, that's turn around.
Turn around. I'm gonna do jokes.
That's me.
Yeah, I think it would probably be one of those corporate gigs. Oh, I did one in the town where Field of Dreams is. Where is that? Dyersville, Iowa?
Yes, right.
And I
did you die in Dyersville?
It was for like yeah, I did. I think I drove home too. It was like one of those nights where maybe I'll stay. We'll see, you know, if I feel like driving home or not.
You're like 6 hours. Yeah, I can make it.
I was like, yeah, I just drove home just all on that energy of fuck. Let me get the hell out of this place.
It's like I just did Letterman last month. Jesus Christ.
It was like not Amway or whatever it was, some kind of fundraiser for United Way. I think it was United Way.
Okay.
And there was a priest there, and he was in priest gear, and I didn't say anything inappropriate, but I needled him a little bit on just a couple of things, you know, about. I don't know, it might have been something like, you know, you're probably not used to seeing crowds like this or something ridiculous. And he got all bent out of shape. And I got off stage and they were like, Father's not happy with you. And like, what? Father? Like they all knew him just as Father.
Yeah.
The small town.
Father Steve.
I insulted the town clergy. And they basically ran me out of town. Yeah. It's like, I'm out of here. I didn't feel safe.
And then fast forward to Madison Square Garden, it all dissipates, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But that I was just riding Sebastian's wave.
Yeah. Well, you've created a pretty good wave for yourself, man, and I'm proud of you. So kudos to all your success, buddy. Man. So anything you want to plug? Your special? Everybody go out and watch your special.
Even you, Chuck. I'm going to remind you where you can find it.
Well, I know it's on Amazon Prime, which I do have.
It's on Amazon, Apple TV. Yeah, it's called When's Ma Gonna Be Home? And I also do a podcast called All Over the Place. You know Jim Flanagan?
I know who he is. I've never met him.
Yeah, he's solid. Great comic. We do it together, and we drop those on Tuesdays.
You ever want to have me on? I'll return the favor. If you need agent perspective.
Yeah, for sure. We haven't done really any guests. We did have Sebastian on to help promote.
Okay. I'm not Sebastian, so. I mean, I'm close. I'm a close second to Sebastian.
Yeah, I would love to have you, man.
Yeah.
We'll get some stuff lined up.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Good luck navigating through all this mess, and I can't wait to see you when you come to Charlotte with Sebastian on the back end.
I can't wait either.
When all this shit's back in session, and see you at a comedy festival or something. So
definitely.
All right. Well, everybody out there watching and or listening who want a comedian for anything, you want to book PATT McGANN for anything virtually right now, you can do so at summitcomedy.com. So, Pat, thanks again, man. We'll see you on the flip side.
Perfect. Appreciate it, Chuck. Thank you.
Later, buddy. Bye.
Bye.